the companies are not making that much money to spare for the innovation or technology. But on the other side, it becomes important for the government to come in at this point so that they can work together on these projects. Let me give you an example of it. I also chair a public-private partnership company, which is called Global Innovation and Technology Alliance. It was started about 10 years back with the whole purpose to create an ecosystem for innovation and get companies to start, and even the startups to start doing research and development. And the concept was that not only use the government funds, but also get into collaboration with the other nations as well. Today we have 9 countries that we are working with. And how it works is that's a kind of one company from, let's say, we have a partnership with Israel, just as an example, and they have tremendous amount of traction from that side. So one company from Israel, one company from India, let's say $1 million worth of project. So $250,000 from the Indian company, $250,000 from the Israeli company, and the balance comes from the governments. So they can do an innovation project of $1 million, which may or may not work. You know, you have to accept that when you're getting into an R&D and innovation project, it can fail. And that's very, very important to accept. So that's one of the thoughts that how the governments can collaborate. The other way that is also being done is of incubation centers. Incubation centers are not only being partnered with universities, but also with the private companies. Like we have innovation kind of a incubation center, which we allow the MSMEs to come in, work from the desks, and provide them some kind of help in terms of literally getting from the aspect of the government funds to the private funds. So you know that the proverbial valley of death is avoided. So there's a public fund, and when they get to the private fund, that's when a lot of the SMEs lose their way and actually die. So that's how it's all operating. And there are many, many such examples. In the interest of time, I'll stop here.
We're going to come close to wrapping up. Anthony, I'd like your final thoughts on the topic of public partnership, and especially what it means in developing countries. Anthony.
So just to given time is short, I think number one is governments and companies like ours, how do you work on minimal to no friction? So, you know, one, I just want to celebrate the Indonesian government. We worked with the Ministry of Cooperatives. They were super helpful. They helped us onboard many, many thousands of wet market, traditional wet markets all across Indonesia. So just working together, again, we are small. It's about leveraging and working and standing on shoulders of giants, and there's no better giant than the Indonesian government. That's number one. Number two is, I think on public and private collaboration, you know, we take, for example, EV. EV is a massive social issue, or climate change, but specifically, how do you deal with it with EVs? Effectively, there is a cold start problem today. Where, you know, if there's not enough charging stations, a lot of people don't invest in EVs, and if there's not enough EVs, people don't invest in charging stations. So that is one complex issue that we can partner on. So I'll give you an example here. You know, again, we decided to say, look, we have to solve this with partners like many here, PLN, Pertamina, Gesit, VR. We've been able to partner and launch. Today we have over 8,500 electric vehicles They've done over 100 million kilometers in electric kilometers. Again, thanks to the customers who love it. We've saved over 10,000 tons of carbon emissions. But again, we're just in the beginning. This can only happen with amazing collaboration, and again, by standing on the shoulders of giants, and many of them are here.
Yeah, I mean, you've outlined the role of technology, innovation, combined with sustainability. These things go hand in hand. I want to thank this distinguished panel. It's been a huge privilege. Please join me in a huge round of applause for our panel.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Azaguri, thank you so much for the insightful discussion. And we got several important notes from the discussion. It's very enlightening as well. Ms. Candace Johnson, co-founder of SES and Laurel Teleport Europe, thank you so much for sharing to us. And she said that innovation is important, but inspiration is even better. And the story of SES that she shared was so beautiful and was so inspiring. SES, for those who are unaware of it, is a satellite communication service provider that offers telecommunication services. And also, she shared about the progress of diversity there in her company. Mr. Christian Gebra, CEO of Telefonica Brazil, also shared about Indonesia, India, and Brazil will become 3 of the biggest economies in the world, and they will need technology to bring things digitally to people that they don't have physically. It's really interesting as well what Mr. Anthony Tan shared, that many of MSMEs or UMKM in Indonesian term had a tough time embracing the change when digital economy kicked in, especially when the pandemic hit. It was dark days for them, for the MSMEs, but Grab's innovation helped MSMEs not only to survive, but up to this day, to thrive. And working together between government and private sector is truly important, and public and private collaboration example is EV or electric vehicle, and Grab has been able to partner with 8,500 EV owners because customers love it and it saves carbon emission. Mr. Alvin Seratmaja of MTech Group pointed out that MTech has been engaging in never-ending digitizing its business, and because of COVID, MTech was forced to accelerate that process. And no less important is great policy and also implementation. And for example, nickel. In the past, Indonesia exported raw nickel ore, but not anymore, because nowadays, Republic of Indonesia exports processed and value-added goods. So once again, thank you so much for the discussion, and we're looking forward to another discussion or one-on-one conversation after this. So after this, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a one-on-one conversation discussing about investing in future talents, technology, and financial resources with Mr. Chang Peng Chao. It's really interesting. The CEO of Binance once tweeted, in particular on Sunday, saying that self-custody is a fundamental human right, and you are free to do it at any time. Just make sure you do it right. And it's very intriguing to, listen more and learn more from Mr. Chang Peng Chao. So ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, that our next agenda is one-on-one conversation with the main topic of investing in future talents, technology, and financial resources. So please welcome on stage the moderator and also speaker, Mr. Aldi Haryo Pratomo, Vice Chair of Indonesia FinTech Association, as the moderator, and of course, Mr. Chang Peng Chao, the CEO of Binance.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aldi. I'm the Vice Chair of the Indonesian FinTech Association, and we're here today with CZ, who runs the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange. At the peak, they traded 24 hours, $170 billion of crypto. So this week has been a really eventful week for crypto. So despite all that's going on, thank you for being here with us, CZ. What have you enjoyed the most about Indonesia so far?
I actually been to Indonesia, specifically Bali, many times. It's a fantastic place.
Jam 2:15, belum masuk juga ediman kamu. Kamu anggap ediman saya kemarin apa, Ben? Kita kena kucing. Sampai minggu depan gak bisa masuk headline, kamu saya terpilih.
Kak, saya mau bagiin flyer ya. Ini untuk pencegahan penipuan nasabah online.
Oh, Berry juga kena, Kak?
Iya, Kak. Penipuan online khususnya lewat social engineering memang lagi ramai.
Kamu ini serius? Apa main-main? Kok lu bisa-bisanya sih ngegocek sama trik cemen kayak gini? Tahu.
Bang. Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Apaan sih?
Gue punya ide. Gimana kalau kita nyamar jadi tukang nasi goreng, terus masuk ke kampung hilir? Jenius banget gue emang kadang. Ya nggak?
Lu pikir kita intel?
Nih, Bang Tresna kan punya beberapa binaan gerobak. Kita sewa aja salah satunya.
Ya kan?
Aduh, jangan aneh-aneh deh. Lu emang bisa masak?
Lu kira gue nggak bisa masak? Ya, gue nggak bisa masak. Cuman kan bisa belajar. Jangan pernah katakan tidak pada sebuah kesempatan. Itu. Ya kan? Ini tuh bisa jadi kesempatan kita bikin artikel menarik. Membongkar gembong penipuan online perbankan. Ih, pokoknya gue yakin ini judul bakal tembus headline. Lu jadi nikah, kerjaan balik, gue tetap jadi artis TikTok.
Tapi ini risikonya gede loh, Indra. Bahaya banget, mereka itu kriminal loh.
Gua nggak mau mati duluan. Ayo.
Tapi kalau kalian nggak ada progres, Om juga akan bertanya-tanya. Kamu ini serius? Apa main-main?
Halo, Ren. Indra.
Iya, Ben. Yuk, halo.
Soal rencana Indra tadi, gua oke deh.
Nah, gitu dong.
Aduh, mati kita.
Ya.
Every day, every night, I'm thinking about you and you was there. Every day, every night. Every day, every night, I'm thinking about you and you was there. Every day, every night. Every day, every night, I'm thinking about you and you was there.
Pada bengong aja. Jadi belajar masak nggak?
Jadi, Mang.
Nih, pisau, pegang. Nah, nih, talenan.
Iya.
Nah, nih sodet. Oke, ayo kita masak. Kalau nggak enak, nggak akan saya kasih pinjam gerobaknya.
Iya, Mang.
Ini punya siapa ini?
Saya, Chef.
Mulu.
Mang Tresna, ini mau ngejuri apa busung lapar ya? Kok nggak berhenti-berhenti, Mang?
Maaf.
Jadi gimana, Mang?
Silakan ya. Salah bisa jadi kompetitor nih.
Nah, berarti enak dong, Mang?
Enak.
Gerobaknya dipinjamin berarti?
Ya. Tapi ingat, kalian harus jaga resep rahasia ini sampai kalian mati.
Yes, siap, mati. Siap.
Dan saya minta biaya franchise.
Ya, Mang.
Oke.
Enak ya, Mang.
Every day, every night, I'm thinking about you and you was there. Every day, every night, I'm thinking about you and you was there. Every day, every night. Every day, every night.
Mulai dari sini, kita harus hati-hati. Untuk berkomunikasi, kita harus pakai HP. Tapi kalau mencurigakan, kita nggak usah pakai HP.
Nah, terus?
Pakai ini.
Lah, ini mah kayak Intel dong.
Lah, kita ini emang Intel. Lu kira kita penjual nasi goreng beneran? Ingat ya, ini bukan cuma tentang duit Ben yang hilang. Tapi tentang berita besar yang bakal kita tulis kalau kita bisa membongkar sindikat penipu nasabah ini.
Dalam hitungan 3 kita masuk. 1, 2, 3.
Awas, miring. Kebalik.
Nih, kalian lanjut dulu ya. Gue keliling dulu. Standby dengan walkie-talkie kalian masing-masing. Siap, Dan? Siap.
Salah.
Randy, maksudnya tunggu guru 1 monitor, tunggu guru 1.
In addition to being a very nice vacation resort, Bali is also the crypto center of Indonesia, right? There's a lot of crypto people here. So we have quite an active community here. I've been meeting with our Binance angels who are community volunteers, just learning more about what's going on here. So it's been a fantastic experience.
No, thank you, and we hope you keep coming to Bali, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, let's start with a quick intro. I think on crypto and Binance, right? So we're at B20 Indonesia. The audience is filled with global business and world leaders. What do you think it's important for them to know about crypto and Binance?
Those are big topics. I think crypto, the way I would describe it is, if you think about internet, it's just a new technology. It was just a new technology for transferring information.
Yep.
That's all the technology is. It's just data packets over a wire or over the air. But because of that, we're able to build entire industries, new economies, virtual worlds. Today, if somebody take away your phone, you feel really awkward. This new technology, crypto, is just a new technology for transferring value. That's all it is. So, but with this new technology, we can now build new business models. It's changing the way we do fundraising. It's changing the way we do investments. It's changing the way we do payments. Now we can do micropayments. We can do cross-border remittances. So we can do NFTs, metaverse. All of this is going to come. Well, some of them are already here, like global fundraising using either ICOs, IDOs, IEOs. Yep. It's already here. So if one technology deals with information, this new technology deals with money.
Yep.
So the impact is going to be tremendous. You will impact economic sectors very heavily. The technology for a better form of money is going to give you a better form of a fintech industry, financial sector, which is going to be the pillar for every other sector. So it's very important to understand this technology. At the same time, there's a lot of risks. We're in a new industry. We've seen over the past week things go crazy here. So in the industry. So we do need some regulations. We do need to do this properly. We do need to do this in a stable way. So all of that is happening. Binance is one of the larger players in the industry. Most people know Binance as a cryptocurrency exchange, but we actually have much more than that. We also invest and own multiple decentralized wallets. We also own CoinMarketCap, which is the most visited website in crypto for information. We invest heavily in DeFi, in blockchain technologies, etc. So we also invest very strongly in local economies in different parts of the world. So we also, we are probably one of the few platforms who push very heavily on education and charity, etc. So Binance is more like an ecosystem of tools that we want to help people to access crypto with.
Oh, thank you. That's a very broad explanation. So let's dive into the use cases, right? Because ultimately it's about being useful. That's what a technology should be. So you mentioned about crypto's function as enabling entrepreneurs anywhere to raise money globally, like Polygon in India, for example, right? But on the flip side of that is there risk for capital flight, because if money can come in, money can also come out. This has been a concern that some regulators and banks have expressed. What would you say to that concern over the benefits of actually being able to raise money globally?
Yeah, so I'll actually say the reverse. If money couldn't go out, money would not come in, right? So as a, as kind of an offshore business, to start a business in Indonesia, to register for a license, I think you have to deposit like $5 million US-ish.
Yeah, around, yeah.
Right, so like 3 to 5 million-ish US dollars. And the first question people will think about, hey, I can wire the money in, but at some point, can I wire the money out? So if the second one is not guaranteed, it's not open, people will not wire money in. So, and blockchain provides a very, very useful tool for entrepreneurs in Indonesia or in any other place in the world to raise money. Today, any entrepreneur with a decent background, with good reputation, with a decent product idea can raise 10, 20 million US-dollars in a matter of days. Whereas doing the same thing through the traditional VCs will take years. And also, I think Indonesia does not quite have a very strong VC ecosystem. Like, compared to the size, in dollar terms, compared to the US guys, are much smaller.
It's still young.
Yeah, still young. But just because we're still young here, we can leverage a new technology. In the US, the VCs are so established that they're actually more scared of this new technology. Because we're young and we don't have such heavy establishments yet, we can just use this new technology for entrepreneurs to raise money. This is the most direct form of foreign direct investment. So every country, every leader I spoke to, everyone wants foreign direct investment. But why don't you let entrepreneurs raise money using the blockchain through ICOs, etc.? So this technology provides that.
Yeah, so your recommendation essentially is for the regulators just to open up, right? But also another part of what brings foreign capital in and capital out is taxation. There's a recent crypto tax introduced, for example, in Indonesia and some other markets. What do you have to say about those?
Yeah, so I actually think the current tax, the new tax that was introduced recently in Indonesia, it's not optimal. I think tax is perfectly fine, and the way to achieve the highest amount of that you can tax is actually through, I think, which could be wrong, is actually through a lower tax number. So look, if you take things to the extreme, right? If you tax $99 out of a $100 transaction, you're not going to get any tax because no one's going to do that transaction. And also in crypto, there's less of a country border concept. When you tax the local entities very heavily, well, the local transaction, the transactions that happen on local platforms very heavily, all those transactions are going to move to offshore platforms. And then you actually end up taxing very little. If you tax a little bit and the transaction volume is high, then the total amount of tax you receive is actually higher, right? So it doesn't mean higher percentage tax always give you the highest return or highest tax collected. Also, I personally would highly recommend don't tax on the user transactions. If you tax 0.12% per user transaction, there's not going to be a lot of transactions. Tax the businesses in the industry. So tax corporate income. And in order to tax corporate income, you should give licenses more easily. When you give a license, then you can ask for data. Then you have a conversation. So then you have control. If you don't give licenses, and most platforms are operating either offshore or in other ways, so quite a number of things are counterintuitive. It's much better to give licenses to be open, and then I highly recommend not taxing the user transactions, but tax the corporate income.
Understood. Okay, let's move on a little bit. So let's move on to banking and finance. There's quite a few bankers in the room today, right? So do you believe that DeFi and crypto will replace traditional finance? And how will the two worlds interact?
Yeah, so I think in the short term, no. Long term, maybe. It's possible. I think short term, today crypto is still pretty hard to use. I think this is probably not a very crypto centric crowd.
Yeah.
So I think I would guess most people will find it very difficult to download their wallet, do a backup of the private key, store in multiple places, encrypt it, and then have a way to pass that on to their kids when they're no longer around. So all of that is quite hard to do today. I think today, 99% of the wealth is still in fiat currencies, traditional financial systems. So we need to integrate the two so that people can start to use this new technology in a steady fashion. But the growth here is going to be faster than the growth in the traditional financial spaces. So that trajectory looks kind of like that, but kind of bumpy, to be honest. But in the long future, though, I do think as the 10, 20 years, as the next generation comes into play, they will be crypto natives. Like the teenagers today, they look at crypto, they think that's just very normal. So 20 years, like the teenagers are 30-something, they'll be doing businesses in crypto only. So crypto is a much easier form of money. It's much easier to do transactions once you know how to use it. It's much lower friction, and it's much global. So it has some advantages. It has some really significant advantages, but today it's just not hard. It's kind of hard to use. So over the long term, when we solve those usability problems, I think more and more people will migrate to crypto.
Yeah, and you always mention in the past about Binance's role as being a platform of platforms, right? Where you're leading the charge in building the technology to increase mass adoption. So what do you mean by that? Maybe explain to the audience. And what are the things that still need to be built in your mind today to get so that everybody in this room in the next few B20s will actually have a self-hosted wallet?
Yeah, so what we try to do is just to provide access to crypto. It could be liquidity that people want to buy and sell. That's a very basic form of it. That's the exchange. Most people think of us as only doing that. But anything that helps people, like CoinMarketCap, is a place for people to access crypto information. So most people use that website to look up, coin, the history, etc. So happy to provide that. Even custody, self-custody wallets, as we were mentioning before, Trust Wallet, we provide that. That's a tool that people hold their own private keys on themselves, and they hold their crypto funds. And we have we don't want to control, we don't want to touch that. So, and we also help other entrepreneurs in the space. We invest very heavily in the ecosystem, and actually our investment has done really, really well over the last 4 years. I think we've done over 70x over the last 4 years, even at today's prices. So yeah, so we just want to help to build tools. I think the talk I did here like 3 days ago. Yeah, so I learned from a very senior guy in Google. He said, look, Google provides a number of infrastructure services in the internet space. They do a bunch of stuff that people don't even think about, like the time on your phone is synced with a Google Internet server. The DNS, the 8.8.8, that's also provided by Google. So all of those things are free, but the internet becomes more usable. So we just want to provide any tool for people to use crypto for.
Yeah, and as you do this, I think you'll become bigger and more powerful and more central in the industry. So right now, we looked at the spot trading volume for the last 24 hours. Binance was 13 billion. The next one, the closest one, is 1.3 billion, right? How big is too big? And what are your thoughts about, as you get bigger, your responsibility in the ecosystem to protect consumers?
Yeah, so there are natural network effects and centralization versus decentralization forces at play. There's economy of scale. And so the larger exchanges like us, we can invest very heavily on security. And we can invest, because of our liquidity, people get better prices by trading on Binance. So they come to us more. So there's a network effect. So the bigger ones do tend to get bigger, even in a free market.
That's right.
So that's just natural economic forces. At a certain size, though, I think for our industry, it is better to sort of have more decentralization. Today, though, at the same time, I think the proper players, if we do things properly, people actually come to you. There is quite a lot of players in our space that try to cut corners to grow quickly. And that actually destroys consumer trust. When they don't trust them, they don't go to them. They actually go to a platform they trust. So I think just I really encourage all the other players in the space, run businesses very solidly, very properly. That's the best way to grow. So we try to help grow other exchanges, other DeFi protocols, other wallets, etc. We invest heavily in them. We invest in other centralized exchanges too, try to help them grow. We also invest in a local exchange here in Indonesia. So we try to help them grow, but there are natural forces. So we don't really control how big we are, how small we are, etc. We just try to provide the best service, the most secure, the most reliable service to our users.
And in terms of protecting consumers, what is the role of regulators, the government, the central bank, in your view, because of recent events? Right? FTX collapsed recently, and there could be more, right? Especially in the derivative sector, for example. Like, what would be the role of the central bank and other regulators in this case?
I think the industry collectively has a role to protect consumers, to protect everybody. So it's not just regulators. Regulators does absolutely have a role, but it's also not 100% of their responsibility. No one can protect a bad player, to be very frank. If a guy is very good at lying and is very good at just pretending to be what he's not, somebody wants to violate the law is not going to prevent that. The law can help to reduce that. As industry players, we should be more vocal about it. We should set very strong standards for the industry. Actually, one of the things we will do very soon, given the events that happen, we will try to collect the other industry players together, form an industry association globally, try to deal with some of the common standards in business, etc. So as industry players, we have a responsibility as well. The VC investors have a responsibility. They invest in businesses that didn't work. that hurt a lot of users. They're also responsible. The consumers are responsible as well. The schools are responsible. Why aren't we teaching people about consumer financial risk assessment in schools? So everybody's responsible. No one can completely prevent it. But the regulators do have a role. We do need slightly more. We do need to increase the clarity of regulations and the sophistication of regulations in the crypto space. Most of the regulations today deal with KYC and AML. The natural response is to borrow the regulations from traditional financial systems. How do we regulate banks? Most regulators think of crypto exchanges like banks. But crypto exchanges operate very, very differently from banks. In a bank, it's very, very normal for a bank to move user assets for investments and try to make returns. In crypto, if you run a crypto exchange that way, it's almost guaranteed to go down. To the traditional financial regulators, to them, they may not even be thinking about this before this week. But we, Binance, have always held 100% reserves of user assets. And we're leading the way to do proof of reserves, publicly disclosing all of our cold wallet addresses. And other industry players are forced to follow, because if they don't follow, they become even smaller. And when they follow, some of them have some issues now. But we as an industry, we need to increase the transparency. We need to work very closely with regulators all around the world to make this industry more robust. But there's a strong role for regulators to play, but we can't blame this on anybody, or any single party.
Understand. Actually, that's actually the point, right? Because crypto is a borderless technology, and yet regulators are now operated based on borders. So what is your thoughts on that, crypto as a global phenomenon versus like local exchanges that exist in different markets?
Yeah, so there's like a balancing force between technology innovation versus traditional concept of a country border.
Yep.
If you think about a country border, that's a human-made concept, right? So in the natural world, the country border doesn't exist. It's just like a bunch of guys agree, this is the border, that becomes the border. And now the technologies we have, we're post-internet. We now have blockchain. The internet doesn't have a lot of borders. Today, when you use the internet, you do a Google search, you click on our Twitter ad, guess what? That's ran by a company in the US. It's kind of borderless. And when you click on an ad, that revenue goes to the US or some other country. Or it could be a local company here servicing other people around the world. But in the blockchain world now, we're post-internet, it's going to be much, much more global. So each country should try to develop their local talent, the local, what we call Web3 economy, so that they can service the rest of the world. The better the country, the better countries that can do that, the more money they will make from the rest of the world. So the old concept of like limiting everything by a country border is going to be quite tough going forward. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned about talent, actually, interestingly, because I think the competition for talent is also global now, right? And you yourself actually worked in worked in the crypto or like a trade exchange in Tokyo, right, a while back in 2005. What advice would you give to the Gen Z now, who is starting out, right? They were digitally native, now they're crypto native. What would you say to them today to build their careers?
It's a tricky one. So I think different people have different skill sets. I typically recommend people, especially the younger generation, to become good at one thing first. Because of the global competitiveness, today we can hire the best programmer anywhere in the world, in Indonesia, in Jakarta, in other places. They can work from home. So the competition is global now. So you got to be very good at what you do. And if you try to be very good at many things, it's quite a bit harder than trying to be good at one thing first. But as you become more like seasoned, more experienced, people can become more generalists. Founders, CEOs are typically generalists. But I typically recommend people to be good at one thing first, and then grow from that. And also have a very global mindset. Don't just look for jobs in the local economy. If you're a programmer, for example, there probably are higher paying jobs in more developed countries, etc. But you can work from here and live here, and it's a beautiful lifestyle here, and have those jobs. And also learn about new technologies. The world is changing really, really quickly. So for the younger generation, always learn about new technologies.
No, thank you. Any closing statements for the audience?
Not much. I mean, so over the last week, there's so much turmoil in our industry. I want everybody to understand that's not reflective of everything in the industry. The industry goes through ups and downs. We have one or maybe even more bad players in the industry, but the industry is still growing, so we're still building. Yeah, so thank you for your support.
Yeah, thank you very much, CZ, for your time today. Everybody, CZ. Thank you so much.
Mr. Aldi, thank you so much, and also Mr. Chow for the inspiration and stories that you just shared. And we can learn that self-custody is a fundamental human rights. That's what Mr. Chow tweeted on Sunday. You are free to do it at any time. Just make sure to do it right. And he also explained and mentioned that crypto is actually like internet in the first days. It was a new technology for transferring information, internet, back then. But because of what we were able to build, technologies, communication, etc., thanks to the internet. And crypto is just like the internet. It's a new technology, but now we can do many things, different business model, transferring money, storing money, and many other activities. And it comes with risk, as with other new technologies. And he also pointed out that current taxation done by governments is actually not optimum. Don't tax on transaction, but tax on the corporate income. And because of big liquidity, he also said that more people come to Binance, and he also pointed out that we do need more decentralization. Mr. Chow also pointed out that industry has to protect consumers, not only the government that has to do it. Industry players need to set very high tone and standard for the industry itself, and regulator does have a role. We need to make it clearer in regards with the regulation on cryptocurrency. All right, now we're moving on to another exciting, and I can guarantee this must be one of the sessions that you have been following and looking up to. And we're having another insightful one-on-one conversation with one of the top global leaders in technology, with the main topic of navigating future disruption of global technological innovation.
A little less conversation, a little more action. All this aggravation ain't satisfaction in me. A little more bite, a little less spark. A little less fight, a little more.
All right, that was the back sound, not my voice though. The bass sound was so cool. I'd like to invite Mr. Anindya Bakri, who has been joining us now, the CEO and President Director of PT Bakri and Brothers, and also the one and only Mr. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla Inc., SpaceX, and now Twitter as well, joining us virtually. Take it away, Mr. Bakri.
Ladies and gentlemen, no need introduction. Please welcome Elon Musk. Hi, Elon.
Sorry, we actually just weirdly.
Nice shirt.
Hi, we had a power outage about 3 minutes before this call. My apologies. That's why I'm like bizarrely in the dark here.
Elon, you are lucky because you have unprofessional moderator. It's the first time I'm doing it. But I'm sure we're going to have fun, especially when we wear this shirt.
Great.
Thank you for wearing it. We sent it 15,000 kilometers across the globe.
Thank you. Thanks for this awesome shirt.
Just quick thing, Elon. The batik that you have is from Central Sulawesi, from small village. It is a place where you have a lot of nickels there, so you may like to visit there. Great. And they have this ambition to make net zero industrial park with clean energy. So that's why this batik bomba is special. I hope you like it.
It's great. Thank you for this awesome shirt. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. Elon, I know you are a hard worker, but with a lot of headlines that you make lately, if I were you, I would, jump on a plane and fly to Bali and kind of like hide a little bit or relax. Why don't you do that?
I mean, that sounds fantastic. But you know, my workload has recently increased quite a lot. I mean, oh man. I have too much work on my plate, that is for sure.
No doubt about it.
So, yeah.
Elephant in the room question, Elon. Of course, Twitter. First, how does it feel to be media mogul? Okay, noted. Next question.
I'm sort of more like, is Twitter sort of media, but it's not exactly media. I mean, it is a medium as opposed to media. So it's but I mean, it's to speak because there's no way to make everyone happy, that's for sure.
I see. Now, Elon, we are Twitter nation, fourth largest in the world. A lot of millennials and Gen Z. Even President Jokowi has about 19 million followers. What is the future of Twitter for these developing countries, but already in G20, including the likes Brazil and India? Can you share a little bit?
I think Indonesia has an incredibly exciting, bright future because you know there's just so much youth and energy, and the population. I think a lot of people in the world don't realize you know that Indonesia has one of the world's highest populations of any country. So I think the combination of the youth, energy, large population, a lot of resources. I think the future is extremely exciting for Indonesia. So. Yeah, I'm you know, I guess bullish on Indonesia, if you will. I think it's very, very exciting, bright future.
So there was a thought, I think we interacted a little bit in Boca Chica about Twitter TV. Because over here, information is being disseminated using free-to-air TV antenna to 17,500 islands. Imagine user-generated content, short videos, trending topics. Is it a good idea or bad idea?
No, I think that's a great idea. Twitter for sure, I think needs to do a lot more on video, and it's kind of a no-brainer to enable a longer video on Twitter, and also enable content creators to make a living with content that they submit to Twitter. So. Twitter really needs to give a revenue share to content creators in order for them to make a living creating content and having that content be on Twitter.
Oh, great to hear that. Now, let's talk about Tesla. Now, the world is decoupling, Elon, as you know it, right? And of course, with the conflict, Russia-Ukraine, it will make it even worse. This decoupling also make the electric vehicle supply chain separated within the East and West. It looks like it. So they are making separate supply chain. Now, you are a global company, Tesla is, global customers, but gigafactories in China, Germany, and Austin that I thank you for hosting us in. How do you navigate through all of this?
Well, I have to say it's with great difficulty. I mean, I'm really working at the absolute most amount that I can work from morning till night, 7 days a week. So this is not something I'd recommend, frankly. Yeah. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
But it is I'm just looking at this video and it's so bizarre.
Well, you look like you're in a dark place.
I'm sitting here in the dark, surrounded by candles.
I know. Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
So that's the beauty of being in equator, Elon. When it's dark there, it's bright here. Hey, Elon, you know, Indonesia has this ambition to be electro-state as opposed to petro-state. In the past, petro-state, but today, electro-state, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So we want to be the Saudi Arabia of decarbonization. We have peatland, mangroves, tropical forests, carbon dioxide capture. We also have critical battery materials. We also have potential for renewable energy. How should Indonesia contribute to this stabilizing the EV ecosystem, in your view?
Yeah, well, I think Indonesia's making a significant contribution already with the production of critical ingredients for batteries. So nickel, as you mentioned, is a key ingredient in lithium-ion batteries, especially for long-range vehicles. A lot of times people hear the word like lithium-ion battery, but lithium is actually only a few % of the battery weight, whereas nickel is actually the majority of the battery weight in long-range vehicles, and which will also be essential for aircraft, which require a high energy density battery pack. So, I think, and then Indonesia is also doing a lot of renewable energy generation. So, so the combination of sustainable mining, renewable energy generation, and just overall, you know, sort of advancements in internet connectivity and education, I think Indonesia is going to make a great contribution to the world.
Oh, great, great, thank you. Now, a lot of developing countries are already in G20, like Indonesia, today hosting, and you have India, South Africa. Any thoughts about making a little bit more affordable but still good quality Tesla? Maybe we call it Model I, Indonesia, India?
Yeah, I can't speak too much about the future Tesla product development, except to say that we do think that making a much more affordable vehicle would make a lot of sense, and we should do such a thing.
Oh, great, great to hear that. So let's go to SpaceX, Elon. So when we went to Boca Chica to see your facility, impressive facility, by the way, right? First, I have never been to Starbase, right? But I overheard some engineers saying that maybe the best place to launch these rockets are from the equator. So
yeah, it's true.
It's true, right? Indonesia has
actually, like the best would be at like a really tall mountain at the equator.
Okay, mountains on the equator, got it. So Indonesia has 5,000 kilometers of equator, and in fact, our new capital is going to be on the equator. Should we be talking more about launching pads of SpaceX being in Indonesia? And maybe also you can launch some Starlinks. We need some connectivity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think long term it would make a lot of sense to have launch platforms around the world. And I think you could actually even have a situation where you travel by rocket from one part of the world to the next, because then you can travel at you know, over 20 times the speed of sound. So so for a rocket can get to the complete other side of the world in 45 minutes, and you know, sort of to most places in about 20 minutes.
Got it.
So I think that this would really open up the world if you could travel conceivably, you know, to anywhere in the world in less than an hour.
Yeah. By the way, Elon, over here in Indonesia, you are not called Elon Musk. You are called Mas Elon.
Okay.
Mas is brother.
Okay, cool.
Brother Elon.
Thank you.
So Mas Elon, you know, we threw some questions on social media asking what would you ask Elon if you happen to see him, live. Right? And maybe you have heard this question, but why do you talk so much about sending people to Mars while probably more than half of the people on Earth still think that the world is flat?
Yeah, well, I think it's an exciting future if you can imagine like where we're a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species, and ultimately out there among the stars. And that's just, I find that to just be an incredibly exciting, inspiring future, and to think that one day that such things might happen. And the world, of course, will always have problems, and that we need to solve the problems of Earth. And I think 99% of our effort should be on solving the problems of Earth. And I think 1% of our effort should be on being a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species, because that's just incredibly exciting and inspiring, and there need to be things. Life can't just be about solving problems. There've got to be things that inspire you and that make you glad to be alive and happy to wake up in the morning.
From SpaceX, going back to Earth, Boring Company, we had a chance to go to your facility in Las Vegas. Now, Indonesia and a lot of developing countries, and even developed countries, have a lot of traffic. Are you thinking to do projects of Boring Company in developing country cities, especially maybe using electric buses? So you can solve two things at the same time, traffic and CO2 emission.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like, my joke about tunnels is that tunnels are underappreciated. I mean, it's not the best joke in the world, but I think the only answer that I can see for congestion in cities is tunnels. I think flying cars are, I think because of the fact that they generate a lot of noise and a lot of wind, and there's always some possibility that it will fall on your head, and it certainly would not be good for privacy if flying cars were flying over your house all the time. I think, on the other hand, that tunnels do not suffer from any of those issues, and so like you can think of flying cars as like 3D above ground, and tunnels are like 3D below ground. And we have some of our first tunnels with electric vehicles operating in them in Las Vegas. So I'd encourage anyone who visits Las Vegas to try them out. It sounds so simple, but electric vehicles in tunnels are absolutely an answer to the worst possible congestion of any city, because you can go as many layers of tunnels deep as you would like until the traffic congestion is addressed.
Great, thank you. We're getting to the end of the interview, so I'm going to try to take advantage of it.
Sure.
The right questions to ask for the millennials and Gen Zs. We have 70% of the Indonesian population. They are in that category. What are the great questions to ask today, looking at the next 20 years? Because in 20 years, Elon, Indonesia wants to be in golden era in 2045, 100 years of the independence. What are great questions to ask?
You asked me what are the great questions to ask?
What should be they ask? What they should be asking?
Let me think about that.
Well, we are not millennials and Gen Z, so that's okay, I guess.
Well, I think one of the questions to ask is, what future do you want? Like, what is the good future? I mean, I think one where civilization is growing and the scope and scale of consciousness are growing along with it is a great future. You know, obviously one where we transition to a sustainable energy, because, you know, the counterpoint is unsustainable energy. You know, the faster we can transition to a sustainable energy economy, the better. But we will transition to a sustainable energy economy. Just a question of how long it takes. And then I think just furthering human knowledge so we can understand the nature of the universe and our place in it and how we got here and, I don't know, the meaning of life. And as I said earlier, going and exploring other star systems, and maybe we'll find, you know, alien civilizations or discover alien civilizations that existed millions of years ago, may no longer exist, but we see the ruins of ancient civilizations. I think that would be incredibly interesting, just to, you know, go out there and explore the galaxy.
I see. Thank you. And Bobby, the last question. You are a true global citizen, born and raised in South Africa, made it well in America, becoming global entrepreneurial hero. We are here in Southeast Asia. So what should the next and maybe better Elon Musk of the East be focusing on in the next 10 years? Because a lot of people in this room, they want to be Elon Musk of the East. Why not, right?
Well, I mean, I think you be careful what you wish for. I'm not sure how many people would actually like to be me. They would like to be what they imagine being me, which is not the same as actually being me. I mean, the amount that I torture myself.
sepatu. Panas itu. Nggak pakai sepatu, kaki